the way it works is there are two sections. Well, actually, there's three sections, but there are two sections that are scored on a scale of 130 to 170. There is the verbal section and the quantitative, also known as the math section. Again, each one is scored from 130 to 170, which means you can get anywhere from 260 to 340. Finally, there is a writing section, which consists of 2 essays, and you get a score based from a 0 to a 6.
Okay. Okay. The next question is like, what is the different subsections? I mean, what are the different course curriculum in GRE? Like, what do you have to study?
So you're talking about a more specific breakdown within the sections. What does each section consist of? What are the concepts and stuff? Okay. Starting with the verbal is really one big vocabulary test, and your ability to recognize how vocabulary functions in the context of a sentence or a paragraph. And they test that with these vocab-based questions as well as with reading passages. And the reading passages can be as longer than a page even, and it can oftentimes be quite dense. So the skills that they're testing there is your ability, again, to understand how vocab functions in context, and your ability to take complex, dense information and break it down into manageable parts so you can answer the questions. The math section is a little bit more granular, meaning it can be broken into far more many specifics. The math section consists of geometry, it consists of algebra, it consists of probability, it consists of statistics, and those are kind of the main groupings. And of course, within those groupings, anyone who studied math knows that there's a lot of other subgroupings. Just within algebra itself, there's algebra dealing with the FOIL method, there's algebra and geometry, etc. But again, the big picture questions are typically probability, geometry, algebra, rates, and coordinate geometry.
Okay. Okay. Say if, as a student, if I take multiple tests in a year, say I take 2 or 3 tests in a year, and I have one test with great scores, and I have one recent one with not so great scores. So which one will be accepted? The one with the highest, or with the recent, or how to go about that?
That's a great question. So if you decide test day not to send your scores, let's say the test 1 and test 2, on both test days you do not use the free option or the score select option to send your test for free. You say, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to walk out of the testing center. Then after you take the second test, you can say, okay, now for a little bit more, I'm going to send, again, it's about $25 or $30. You have the option to send just one of those tests. The only time you cannot send the better test is when you've already sent the first test or the second test. So maybe I should explain that one more time. So if the very first test, they ask you, do you want to send it to a school? And you say, yes, I'll send this, let's say it's a poor score, I'll send it to these 3 colleges. The second time you take the test, you do really, really well. You still have that the schools you sent it to will still know about that first score, even if you did really well in the second one. If those schools take the average of those 2 scores, nobody really knows. It depends on the program. Some programs will say, you know what, you improved, that's all we care about. Others will say, well, you took it 3-4 times, up and down, let's take the average. We just really don't know what the admissions of any one college is thinking. So
you say that the student should be really wise enough to send the best scores in the first instance?
Well, if those scores are much better than they had thought, if they think, wow, I did much better than those mock tests, they should definitely send them for free. But if they took the score and they said, you know what, I can do better, then there's no reason they should send those scores, even if it's free, because they can come back, no one will ever know about that first test, and they can take the test again and send those scores for free.